Charlie Babbit pulled my head, October 7th, 1988. That's my Dustin Hoffman uh, Rayman impression, or Rain Man. Um, this is my review of Rain Man. Now, this is a movie I've been requested to do, but it's also a movie I coincidentally just watched like 2 days ago. Um, it's a very good movie. It's one of my, actually one of my favorite movies. It won Best Picture in 1988, and it's kind of negative, slack for it because it's considered one of the least memorable Best Picture movies. Like this, Shakespeare in Love, and of Fire are actually kind of hated just because they won Best Picture and they're not memorable. Oh my god. But anyway, I think this movie's great, and those other movies, I'm sure, like, so I've seen Shakespeare in Love. I thought that one was fine too. Um, with Rain Man, it's a simple story. It really is, but most Best Pictures are actually kind of simple stories. Um, but it's about um, Tom Cruise plays this guy. He like he like helps sell cars, and like he's like imports cars and stuff like that, and he has like a girlfriend that supports him, and he's like doing really good at his job until he gets a call that his a call that his father died, and he it kind of hits him right there because he didn't really have a good relationship with his father because it all ended over this 1948 Buick that his dad owned because he wanted to drive it when he was 16. Rebuked him, and so he snuck out, totaled it. So that's why, and his father stuck him in jail, and that's why they're kind of not the best relationship. But after his father dies, he learns that he gets his Buick and his rose collection, but like the house and like $5 million go to someone else. And so he finds out that he has a brother played by Dustin Hoffman, a much older brother who's severely autistic, which means that he's really smart, but he can't really comprehend emotions and feelings like a normal person. So he can't really respond and relate to things like a normal person. Um, so the whole movie, so he kind of takes him out of this mental hospital, and he wants to take him to Los Angeles, so he wants to fight over in court. Oh, because he wants half of his money. But over time, on their way, because he has to drive, they can't fly because the brother's paranoid about flying because most of them have had crashes except for Qantas. Plane crashes, so that's why they don't fly. It's just a hilarious scene. There's many hilarious scenes in this movie. So they drive, but on the way, he learns to kind of accept him, and he learns to love him, and he learns that it's more than just money. He wants to just have a relationship with his brother. It's got a sad ending. I won't spoil the ending, but it's still it's still an uplifting, but it's still sad. I guess you could say it's bittersweet. It's kind of the definition of a bittersweet ending is Rain Man. But he takes them to Vegas. They win like thousands of dollars. They nearly bankrupt the casino. It's just it's a movie that puts you in a good mood. It's a movie I think a lot of people can relate to because there's many family members that have autism in their family, and so my family, I have a cousin, a second cousin who is close to my age, maybe a little older than me, who's severely autistic. So there's many times where I have to spend full days with him. I love the guy, but he's kind of hard to be around because he kind of gets on your nerves. It's not quite as bad as Dustin Hoffman was in this movie, but the reason why I'm telling you this is I could relate to Charlie Babbit. I really do. You love this person, but you try your hardest not to strangle him out of irritation. And so, but it's It's a relatable character, I think, especially to those who've known somebody who's autistic, who's had to be around somebody that's autistic. I had to spend like 2 days with this person who's autistic, and he's a lovable guy, but he kind of gets on your nerves sometimes. Because he's similar to Rain Man. He's like really smart, but he doesn't really comprehend human emotions. He doesn't really relate to them. So I think Dustin, and also my uncle, he's not autistic, but he was mentally ill. And so I've kind of been around people who I know we all are kind of, but who have, some mental problems. And Dustin Hoffman really portrays a mentally ill person to the T. I don't know how he did it. I don't know how he could snap out of this character, because they say in acting, you have to, 99%, you have to believe yourself, but you have to stay 1% in the back of your mind knowing that it's just an act, so the character doesn't really take over you. That's how, some people can get out of character. And if you can't get out of character, it can actually be dangerous to some actors. Like, that's what it's theorized to have known would happen to Heath Ledger when he played the Joker. But Dustin Hoffman, I don't know how he pulled it off, because he looks like he's 100% a person who's mentally ill but is super smart. It's amazing how he portrays this person. Like, not just the way he talks, but like his eyes just kind of drift off to the side. He kind of cocks his head this way, and he just, you could tell his mind is somewhere far away. And it's really hard to keep, I think, that up, because there's times where, if you were a normal person, there's times in this movie that you would want to say something or get mad or really be involved if something bad's about to happen to you, but because you can't comprehend it, and I don't know how he pulled this off, he really just keeps in character and just kind of stares off and just repeats himself. He repeats things like, who's on first, and he says yes to everything and all that. But, because of that, there's a lot of great moments in this movie that are hilarious. I mean, Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise are very, very, very good chemistry in this movie. This movie actually kind of reminds me a little bit of Midnight Cowboy, because that was another Dustin Hoffman movie. It's very different stories, though. But those two characters he plays another movie where he kind of has to be with somebody in Midnight Cowboy. And this movie has to be with somebody, and they kind of have to work together, and they just have great chemistry. Guys, Dustin Hoffman is so great at capturing chemistry with his co-actor, and they both have great chemistry. Same thing with Midnight Cowboy, same thing with this movie. The way it's shot, it's shot very simply, but it actually feels very cinematic in some scenes, especially the Vegas scenes. You take it in, you're immersed. Tom Cruise is great. It's kind of his first Oscar movie, I think. I don't think he won or was nominated. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I know he didn't win, but I'm not sure if he's nominated. But don't quote me on that. He could have been nominated, but I know Dustin Hoffman won Best Actor in this movie. But this is the first movie that he was in that was, Best Picture nominee or Best Picture winner. So this is what I think kind of made him a Hollywood, considered before that he was kind of a movie star with movies like Top Gun and The Outsiders, but with this he kind of gives you a more dramatic but realistic approach. Not to say that Top Gun wasn't realistic, it was a great 80s cheesy classic movie. This movie is an 80s movie, but it's not this. It's more timeless than that. It's more this movie could, with a section of exception of a couple cars, this movie could really take place in any time period. So it's an 80s movie, but it's not riddled in 80s-ness, which means it's not really a cheesy movie, it's more of a serious dramatic movie. So this is kind of, I guess, Tom Cruise's first Oscar-worthy movie. Oops, pop-up, sorry. I get distracted easy, sorry. But the movie is it is bittersweet, but it's got some funny moments. It's got moments that make you cry, make you laugh. It's got moments that makes you think. You you do get irritated with Tom Cruise by Raymond Babbit in this movie, Dustin Hoffman's character, but it's irritating in a good way because you're supposed to get irritated with this character because he does repeat stuff and you're like, okay. So it's a good thing because it really shows how he immersed Dustin Hoffman got in this. It's interesting how Dustin Hoffman does get top billing in this movie. Because you would think Tom Cruise would get top billing because he's the person we relate to the most because he's more normal. He's the person that's in the beginning, we're introduced to in the beginning of the movie. And Dustin Hoffman got Best Actor, not Supporting Actor. So really, it's interesting how Dustin Hoffman is considered the protagonist of this movie. But I think I can get it too because he even though Tom Cruise is kind of the relatable person, what we're introduced to in the beginning, once Raymond Babbit, Dustin Hoffman's character, gets into the movie, the full movie's focused on him. And so I think that's why. And plus, he's probably more, back then anyway, more well-known than Tom Cruise, and also you probably gave a more better performance than Tom Cruise because he really captures mentally illness really believably, I think. The score is good. It's done by John Barry. He did Dances with Wolves. No, the movie's directed by John Barry. I don't know who did the score for this. I don't know, something. I know he did the same for Dances with Wolves. It's a really good movie. It's one of my favorites. It's definitely a movie that makes you think. It's a very relatable movie. I give this movie big praise. Probably this movie wouldn't have worked without the great acting and chemistry. So it's definitely, that's why this movie succeeds. I definitely recommend this for everyone. I give this movie a 10 out of 10, an A+, 4 out of 4 stars. It's a really great movie, and I think it's actually kind of an underrated movie because even though it won Best Picture, it's not really talked about. And I think it deserves to be recognized more. Like, I think this is definitely an AFI Top 100 worthy movie. But a lot of people just hate this movie because it won Best Picture. And they think, oh, it's forgettable compared to, like, Casablanca or The Godfather. And it's not supposed to be Casablanca. It's supposed to be more of a real... Not to say those movies weren't realistic, but they're more Hollywoodized. Or they were more glamorous. Not to say that Godfather wasn't, but... was not to say that The Godfather was always glamorous, but it was kind of a glamorous, true to nature Hollywood story. Whereas this one is more of a realistic approach. It's more of a real life movie. It's a movie that I think a lot of people can relate to, and it's got great, again, I'm just repeating myself, it's got great acting, great chemistry, great direction. I really like this movie. I do recommend it. So if you haven't seen it, see it. It's definitely in my top 30, I'd say. It's a great movie. It's in this time where movies, I think, were starting to be like more Best Pictures were slower paced. So maybe that's why it will throw off a lot of people. Till Silence of the Lambs, like, there was a time where, like, Rain Man, Driving Miss Daisy, and Dances with Wolves, very slow paced. Not to say that they're long, but they're slower movies, so you can intake them. They're simpler, intake them and be immersed. And there's, sorry, my mind's kind of blanking out here. They're simpler movies. They're not really too complicated. They're just very simple, real life movies, and I think I think more movies need to be this way because, I would like to see a simple movie like this today. You really don't see that. You just look at the Oscars, like Birdman. I'm not to say that's a complicated movie, but it's kind of like, it's more of a visual movie, whereas this one's kind of, an everyday life story. It's not based on a true story, but it's a life movie. And I think, like Dances with Wolves and Rain Man and Driving Miss Daisy, and movies nominated at the time like Field of Dreams were more slower paced, less more you know, relatable life stories, like life movies, I guess, real life movies. Movies that are like real life. They're not true stories, but movies that are real life that a lot of people I think can relate to. So I think that's why it was like that. It came out during that time, and I think it works great for the movie. And I get it when people call it unmemorable. I think, you know, Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise as Charlie Babbitt and Raymond Babbit are some of the most memorable characters in cinema. Like, especially like how he quotes everything like, "Ah, that's 246 toothpicks." "Oh, sorry, man, 250. There were 4 in the bag." You know, those quotable lines are just so great. And of course, like, the best part in this movie is when he bankrupts, practically, not totally, but like he takes a lot because he's smart, so he can count cards. So he pretty much, you know, bankrupts the casino. It's great. That whole gambling scene is just so great because he's just like this, you know. He's really focused. It's funny, and it's really entertaining to watch that scene. So that's all I really have to say for it. I do recommend it. 10 out of 10, 4 out of 4, and A+. So that's my review of Rain Man. Sorry, my mind's kind of shutting down. Rain Man. See you next review. Take care. God bless. And that's it. Signing off. And okay, don't be afraid to comment or subscribe, people. So, and don't be afraid to give me more recommendations to review movies. So, signing off.